Join us now, Democratic Congressman Jay Auchincloss of Massachusetts and Republican Congressman Buddy Carter of Georgia. Any relation, Congressman?
No, I'm the right Carter.
I meant Linda Carter. No, oh, no, I see. You're talking about President. Now, let me ask you, Congressman Carter. Slimmest of majorities can only lose 5, but I've heard that some of what some people would refer to as problematic members of the caucus, some of the more conservative members, are given the nod maybe to what Speaker McCarthy is trying to do. And I don't think he'd have trouble with the middle or the moderate Republicans. Is he going to get this done?
Oh, yes, we're going to get it done. Let me be clear. We are not going to default. We are going to pay our bills. We've always done that. And we're going to get this passed. Listen, this was one of our campaign promises, and this is something that we campaigned on. So, yes, this is one of our top priorities, is to limit spending and to grow our economy and to save taxpayers money. That's exactly what we're going to do. And, yes, I believe that this bill, which has been put together by some of the brightest minds that we have in our conference, and I believe it's going to pass.
Well, people say at this point, and I'm going to get right to Congressman Auchincloss in a second, but Congressman Carter, people say that President Biden is holding a lot of the cards here and that the Republicans don't have any leverage. If this passes, do you think that gives Speaker McCarthy some leverage to bring President Biden and maybe even some I don't know, more moderate senators to the table on a possible negotiation for this?
Absolutely. Let's keep in mind now, there have been a number of Democrats who have expressed concern that the president is not negotiating. Debbie Dingell, Greg Landsman, and Joe Manchin, Amy Klobuchar, all of them have said that the president needs to be negotiating. I mean, Senator Biden negotiated, Vice President Biden negotiated. Why isn't President Biden negotiating? This is practical. It's something that happens all the time. We've had debt ceilings before, and we've had spending limits, and we've had negotiations that have benefited Democrats before. So this is a process that we need to go through.
Congressman Auchincloss, I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know if it would be the end of the world if we did a little bit of fiscal thinking at this point. I know that the president's insisting on a clean raise. Do you think if he insisted on a clean raise and he's not getting that, do you think who would be blamed if we did go through the debt ceiling? Do you think he'll come and negotiate a little? Would you urge him to negotiate on something to send back to the House?
Speaker McCarthy is wasting precious time, and the uncertainty about X date is already undermining the full faith and credit of the United States, which is one of our superpowers, both overseas and at home. There's 2 separate questions here that are being conflated. One is, how much does the U.S. government tax and spend? Of course, that's a political question that's worthy of a fierce debate, and the president, House Democrats, Senate Democrats are looking forward to conversations about that. The second question is, does the United States pay its bills on time? And Republicans and Democrats have always come together in the past to say, yes, of course we do, which is why Democrats crossed the aisle under President Trump to vote 3 times to raise the debt limit, and why we're asking Republicans to do likewise now, because that's not a political question, that's a fiduciary one.
Right, but we do have 125% of debt to GDP. We know that the pandemic caused us to spend, for whatever reason, we're at $32 trillion. You can blame the Trump administration for the tax cuts, whatever you want to do. There is an issue at this point.
And again, $32 trillion of debt has been accrued under Republican and Democratic administrations. Now, Republicans have tended to use it on tax cuts for the wealthy and well-connected. Democrats have made investments in infrastructure and clean energy. But the clear point here is that debt belongs to both parties and to the American people more broadly. And we can have fierce debates about how much we tax and spend, as we should. And we have a whole separate process for that. It's called appropriations. The debt limit process is the full faith and credit of the United States. Right now, what's happening is Speaker McCarthy is taking hostage our credit rating to basically appease the hard right part of his party that got him the speakership. And it is undermining not just people's retirement accounts here at home, and they're going to face catastrophe if we default. It's also undermining our global stature as we look to outcompete the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, some people would say part of what's hurting Americans' pocketbooks are all the spending causing the inflation. What do you think that Joe Manchin's not a far-right House member? Debbie Dingell is not a far-right House member. You heard some of the Democrats that Congressman Carter brought up. What do they see in terms of saying maybe we should try to do something here? It wouldn't be the end of the world if you actually let both sides come to an agreement where they both felt good about this, where they both got some of the things they wanted. You're not going to give away the store if you did that, Congressman.
Yeah. You keep on conflating two separate issues, though. One is about taxing and spending, and like I said, we have a process for that.
You're hearing from from McCarthy and Republicans that it's happening right now. So you can say we're
going to keep it separate. Making it the same thing is holding hostage the full faith and credit of the United States. That is a gift for Xi Jinping and for Vladimir Putin. And negotiations happen through an appropriations process about taxing and spending. When you take the full faith and credit of the United States and you point a gun to its head, and then you don't even have a cogent agenda in return, what you do is you rattle capital markets, you rattle Americans who are banking on their retirement accounts, and you give a geostrategic gold mine to the Chinese Communist Party and to Vladimir Putin, who are trying to make the case worldwide that democracy can't make tough decisions.
Congressman Carter, why not do a clean raise and then do it separately? Do you think would you lose leverage if you did a clean raise and then we'd be back to the back to the whims of whatever the Biden administration wants to do at that point?
Absolutely, and that's why we don't want to do a clean raise. Look, this is a process by which the only time anyone pays attention to our national debt is when we get up against the debt limit. That's the only time. Let's keep in mind now, what is the will of the American people? 54% of Americans say that they don't want to see the debt limit raised, period. We have maxed out on our credit cards. We have got to stop this spending. Washington, D.C. does not have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. And we've got to address that spending problem. Now is the time for us to do it. We're not going to default on this. And this lunacy that we're playing into China's hands, well, let me tell you, we're playing into China's hands because of the Green New Deal policies that the Democrats have tried to enact. We're playing into China's hands. That's why H.R. 1, the helping us grow our economy, that's why that's so important. That's why we've got to unleash American energy so that we're not dependent on China, not dependent on Russia for our energy needs.
Back in 2019, I'm looking at a CNN report, Congressman Auchincloss. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said late Tuesday she's seeing progress in her twin budget and debt negotiations with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. They didn't call it conflating back then. They called it just trying to govern with a two-party system.
What I've heard from my friend from Georgia is that the United States is not going to default on its debts. That's welcome news. And so if he's saying that publicly, then let's just raise the debt limit then. If it's already off the table, then let's just do it so that capital markets aren't rattled, so that Americans' retirement accounts don't get dinged, and so that America's global stature isn't undermined. If it's already off the table, let's just do it. And if Republicans are so concerned about our spending and taxing problem, why is it that the very first bill that they passed when they took the majority raised our deficit and helped the wealthy and the well-connected evade their taxes? What I'm seeing on the other side of the aisle is a conference that is locked in internecine conflict. Speaker McCarthy had to make some very painful promises to get that gavel, and now Americans are paying the price for it.
Congressman Carter, just to that point, what happens if Speaker McCarthy's bill isn't passed in Congress? Are you confident it passes this week?
Yes, I am confident it passes because, look, this is fiscally responsible. What my friend from Massachusetts is suggesting is that we are fiscally irresponsible, and America is not that. Americans are tired of us printing money in Washington, D.C. without having money in the bank. They want to see us be stewards of the American taxpayers' money. That's what we're supposed to be in Congress. But the Democrats, they think you just spend, spend, spend. Well, let me tell you, it's over with now. We've got to stop. Think of all the things that we could do if we did not have to pay the interest on the debt of $32 trillion. Think of all the great things that we could do. We need to address this. We've got to stop this out-of-control spending. And yes, I agree. It has been Republicans and Democrats in the past who have got us to the point that we're at. But this is where we're at. That's why 54% of all Americans say, don't raise the debt ceiling. Stop this madness.
All right, we got to end it there. Congressman Carter, Buddy Carter,